Hey everybody, it's Carla with Carla's Clever Crafts. Going to make this rainbow wreath design tonight. Give me just a second. I've been messing up with my scheduling, so I just want to make sure that I'm actually live, and I am, so I'm going to share it. Okay. Almost done. Thank you for being patient with me. How is everybody doing this evening? And it looks like we're successful on both of my pages. Okay, so we can get started talking about our wreath. I've done a number of rainbow wreaths, but I wanted to do something completely different, something that I hadn't done before. So I literally spent all day experimenting with this. I have done this mesh design before, only I made a sunflower with using like the similar technique. And tonight I wanted to make a rainbow design. So this is what I came up with and what we're going to be doing tonight. I did practice it because I made this design and it's been several years ago. So I wanted to make sure that I remembered what I was doing. This is the sign that we're going to use on our wreath. It just says you are a rainbow of possibilities. I thought that was super cute. The way that it's printed on, it looks kind of 3D, but it's not. It is actually flat. But that's going to be our sign. And then I don't know if you're on my page, you probably seen that I got my new electric stapler, and I was so excited because this sign is a little bit on the thicker side. Hey, Shannon. So I was so excited to use my new stapler, and I thought I better try it before I go live in case something goes wrong. So I put it on my table, and I used my stapler to attach this pipe cleaner, which it worked beautifully, except I stapled my sign to the table, and I now have two holes in my table. So, so I'm not going to use the stapler to do the top one. We're going to actually use my old-fashioned glue trick, and we're going to go ahead and do that so that it can be setting up while we make the wreath. So I'm just going to use a pipe cleaner. I cut a small piece. This is just scrap ribbon. I keep some of my scraps to use for this purpose. And I'm just going to use the dab tonight. I'm not going to use the hot glue. Sometimes I use dab and put hot glue on top of it because this design is going to take minutes easily. This dab rapid fuse sets up in 30 minutes. So I don't feel that we're going to need the hot glue to give us that temporary hold. So I'm just going to come up here and put a little square of this dab. Wipe off the top of my lid. And I'm just going to take this little piece of scrap ribbon and press down on it. Now maybe we'll have to use the hot glue. It's coming through the ribbon onto my fingers, so my fingers are wanting to stick. Okay, let's just set that to the side. We'll revisit that and see if we need to secure that better. We'll test it. Okay, so to do this design, I'm using all poly mesh to do this because of the colors. I wanted the bright, vibrant colors, and I find that sometimes in fabric mesh or burlap mesh, cotton blend meshes, you don't get the same bright, vibrant colors that you get with poly mesh. Having said that, this will have some fraying using the poly mesh. If you want no fray, you would have to burn it to cut it, use a wood burner to cut it. And I didn't do that. If you've watched me very long, you know that I'm kind of an anti-wood burning person because of the amount of time that it takes. But you could do that to cut down the fraying. I actually have bought E6000 spray glue that is specifically for like fabric and mesh and crafts and things like that, that is supposed to reduce fraying. So I'm going to try that on this and then report back to you all what my results are. But our weather has been too cold, so I haven't been able to go outside to spray. It says it's zero odor, but I still don't want to spray it inside my house. So I'm going to wait till I can get outside to do that. Let's move this one out of the way because we're going to start fresh. And the first thing that I wanted to talk about is the size of the wreath form. So I'm using a 14-inch Dollar Tree frame. That sign that I just showed you that we're using tonight is 12 inches. And the reason that that matters is because we need to know where it's going to sit on the frame for putting on the petals that we're making. So if you measure this inside from the very inner ring to the inner ring side over here, you get, it's 10 inches exactly for that center ring. Okay, if you do from this second ring to this second ring, it's 11 inches. So our sign is going to sit just slightly over the outside of the second ring. Okay, if you're using a smaller sign, say an 8-inch, for example, I have an 8-inch one here. You can see that if you start the petals here, you're going to end up with a big gap here. So you would have to use something behind this. I see a lot of people use the white plastic mesh and attach to this so that they can start their petals further in and bring them out. A lot of the flowers, I don't do the flowers, but Shannon, who is on here with us, does a lot of the flowers. You would need to use that mesh or something that you can work your petals underneath. Our sign is so large that we're just going to be able to work on this frame. And I'm not even working on this inside frame because it's going to be completely covered. So I am going to be working on the second, third, and fourth of the rings around the frame. And I have wired my pipe cleaners. I started wiring, I work by section. A section is between these two crossbars. And I wired my frame using the outside first. And what I did is I just came in about 1 inch to 1.5 inches and put a pipe cleaner, came in from this crossbar and did the same thing. Then I went to the middle between those two and put a third one. So we're going to have 3 pipe cleaners on the outside 2 rings in each section. Then I came to the second and third rings, and in between the ones on the outside ring, I placed one in between. So we're going to have 2 on rows 2 and 3, 3 on rows 3 and 4. I hope that makes sense. We're going to do a couple sections together so I can show you guys. Okay, so in my rainbow, I need green next. So I'm going to start right here in this section. I'm going to come in from this crossbar, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches. Perfection isn't required. You just want to make sure that you get it in a roundabout spot so that we get good coverage when we lay in all of these. These are called petals, I think. This is what we're going to be using. I made some of them in advance. I forget what the name of the petal is. I did not create it. I made one of these several years ago, except I made a sunflower. So I don't remember what the petal's called. If somebody else does, put it in there for me. Hi, Linda. Put it in the comments for me if somebody knows what they're called. Okay, so, and you can see I'm just guesstimating. But again, you want to make sure you're about 1 inch, somewhere between 1 inch and 1.5 inches in, same on this side, and then one in the middle of those 2. Then for my last 2, which I'm missing a pipe cleaner, I'm just going to come to these, to the second and third. Remember, we're not using the inside one at all. We're going to come to the second and third in between these 2, and we're going to put one. Oops. Now, when I'm twisting these pipe cleaners on, and this is going to be important for making sure that we have coverage of our frame, I tell you this all the time because it also makes your mesh more secure on your frame so that it doesn't wobble. But you want to be twisting the knot on the inside ring that you're wrapping around. So we're going around these 2 rings. I'm going to twist my knot on this one. Okay. And that's going to be important because that's going to determine where our mesh lays and how the rest of this frame gets covered. So it's more important on this design. It's important on all of them, but more important on this one. And same way with the ones on the outside too, Ring. Make sure you're tying your knot on the inside one. Okay. So we do it again. Just lining up my ends the best I can, centering between these two on the outside. And then I'm just going to pull it kind of tight and twist my knot right over top of that bar on the inside. Whoops. Okay, and I'm just pushing these like I normally do inside and outside to keep them out of my way when I start putting the mesh in. Okay, so 5 in each section, 2 on bars 2 and 3, 3 on bars 3 and 4. We're going to do one more together. I'm going to do the yellow, about 1 inch to 1.5 inches in, twisting my knot on the inside bar that I'm wrapping around. 1 or 2 twists, and then just push it out of your way. Come to the other side, do the same thing. Now we need to do one in between those two. A 14-inch frame from the Dollar Tree. I think they're a little over 14 inch, maybe 14.5-inch frame, but it's a Dollar Tree frame. Okay, now I'm going to go in between these two on rows 2 and 3 and put this one. Okay, and again, twisting on that inside wire. We have 4 rings here, so we're on the inside one, inside. And then between these two, same thing. And you can attach these with zip ties. The one that I showed you guys at the very beginning that I already have done, some of those are attached with zip ties. So it's entirely up to you, whatever you prefer. I wanted to use pipe cleaners because I think I'm going to add some mesh tubing at the end to this design. So we'll see. That's why I went with the pipe cleaners. If you use the zip ties and you attach these little petals with zip ties, then you would have to go back and add pipe cleaners if you wanted to attach anything else. Okay, so next we will get started with showing you how I made those little cute petals. Again, this is not my design. I don't want there to be any confusion about that. It's something that I learned watching YouTube videos starting in 2017. You're welcome. Okay, so I'm going to try to hold this out where you guys can see it. Maybe try to use the scissors to make it better. So I cut, this is 10-inch mesh. It's poly mesh. This is not value mesh. I did use value mesh on the one I showed you guys in the beginning, so that is possible, but I don't recommend it. It frayed terribly. And I mean, this is going to fray too. There's no doubt about that, but not as bad as the value mesh. And it was just such a hassle to work with. I also did some with this mesh, and this mesh does work a little bit better. If you are a no fray kind of person, then you're going to want to cut with a wood burning tool. I'm also an anti-rotary cutter. So I'm anti a lot of things. I basically like the fastest method. So a lot of times my mesh pieces are not cut straight. They're not exactly the same length. They'll vary because I wrap around a board how many pieces I need or want to cut at a time. And then I cut on each end. So you get some variation and you don't get straight lines. So that's what we're working with. That's how this mesh was cut. 18 inches long, 10 inches wide. I just folded it in half and I'm lining up this edge the best that I can. And then I'm flattening it out because I want there to be a corner up here. Then we're going to bring these 2 corners up, trying to keep them together. And then I like to push it down and make like a boat type shape. And the cut edge is inside right here. Okay. So then once you get your little boat, you're just going to scrunch up the middle. And then I take this tip and pull it back towards me. And then you're going to pull this back towards yourself like that. to make your petals and flip it over. I did that part of the process, but I didn't say it. So you're going to flip it over. Okay, so I'm going to open on my first pipe cleaner here, and I'm only going to do the outside first. When you start to lay these in, you want to make sure that you angle, I mean, because this, when you first put this together, it's kind of straight. You want to make sure that you're angling it where you want your petals to be, okay? I want these to be back towards me, so I'm pulling them all the way back and using my wrist to kind of hold it in place. And then I'm going to pull tight, do a half a twist. I'm going to push it and then finish twisting. Okay, now we're not doing anything else on these outside pipe cleaners, so I'm going to go ahead and snip it. I'm going to push it down in, and I'm going to actually squeeze that again just to make sure it's really tight. We're going to pull our next pipe cleaner up, and we'll do another one. And we're going to do 5 of these. I know when I do cruffles, I only do a couple. That's because everything I do is with cruffles. You love the wood burning tool. You're fast at it. It still frays sometimes, though. I tell you, I have a wood burning tool. Somebody gave it to me for free. It has laid in my craft room for 2 years. It's a lot like an angel wing, but not totally a square piece. Yeah. So it's a rectangle piece. Oh, and I'm glad you said that, Shannon, because that's something else I wanted to mention. You can cut these at different lengths. You could do a square, 10 by 10. You could do 12, 16, 18. I even practiced with one at 23. You're going to get with different lengths is a different size petal. So I did the one with 23 inches. My petal's huge. They were like out here. So you're going to get like the longer your length, the bigger your petal. The smaller your length, the smaller your petal. So whatever you're doing, you know, if you go with a smaller size, you're going to need more to make sure you have all this covered because you don't want your wreath frame to show. Okay, so I'll do it again. I'm just going to lay the scissors here to hold this so you guys can hopefully see. I'm just folding it back. Move the scissors out of my way. I don't normally use the scissors. I'm just doing that so hopefully you guys can see a little better. And the poly mesh is hard to work with to do this. There are other mesh types that are easier. Again, I'm pushing this down to give myself that little point. And then I'm going to fold these 2 points up to that one. This cut mesh is going to be on the inside, and I just mash it down and make my little boat. That's what it reminds me of, like a little sailboat. Okay, and then I scrunch up the middle, and then I pull this tip back to pull it together. I flip it over, make sure I've got a hold of everything, and then just fan it back so you're actually using the whole mesh. You're not wasting any. You've got 2 petals. Okay, we're going to just put it right in the second one. I'm going to kind of lay them because I want this one to lay between these 2. Okay, so I'm just going to angle them back, use my wrist to hold them down, pull, push, pull, and twist. And what I was getting ready to say is fabric mesh or poly burlap mesh. Some of the softer meshes would be easier to do this with. I think you end up with a flatter design if you use those meshes. This poly mesh tends to be kind of springy and poof up. And I do know with the poly burlap, you have to wood burn. I don't think it's even an option. Hi, Shirley. Yes, it is new. I myself have only done this. I was mentioning like a couple years ago, I did it one time and I made a sunflower. I don't know why I haven't done it since. It's very easy. It's very pretty. I don't know. I think you just get comfortable with something and then you kind of stay in that rut. And that's where I know how to do so many different methods, but I just love cruffles and I just got, I get stuck with it. So you guys see a lot of cruffling. Okay, so one more time, we're going to pull it back and line it up. That's probably also part of what prompted me to try to come up with a new technique. Okay, so I'm going to push it down. I want to point up here. I'm going to take these 2 corners, pull them up, flatten this down, scrunch up the middle, and pull this tip back towards us. I'm going to pull it back towards myself, kind of V it so that we have two petals. Place it straight down in. Again, make sure you situate those petals how you want them to lay. I'm going to pull it, push it, pull it again, and twist. I'm just trying to make sure I get these really tight against the frame. And this, like I said, this poly mesh has a tendency to push up, so some of the softer fabrics that mesh is made out of would not do that as much. Okay, so I'm just going to open up my red. Okay, now I have the red ones already pre-made. We are going to make a couple more of them together when we get back to the inner layer because I need to make these two for the inside. Now, the ones I pre-made, I have a pipe cleaner on. That's not necessary. You can do them just like I did the orange ones. But my crumple holder, I wanted to do some of these in advance so it didn't take us so long tonight. Hi, Holly. You haven't made one of these yet. You want to try? Well, this is a very easy version. I'm showing, basically this fits my personality. You know, all of us wreath makers are different and we all have things, different personalities and different things that we like to do. For me, I'm anti-wood burner. I'm anti-rotary cutter. I like quick. I like fast. I don't like tedious. So a lot of the things I'm showing you, including this wreath, will enable you to do this beautiful flower, even if you don't like wood burning or you don't like tedious designs and things like that. But you can do those things. Like I said, if you're just absolutely anti-fray, and some wreath makers are, I'm very low fray. I'm not anti-fray, but I don't like a lot of fray, which is why I mentioned I'm going to spray these and see if I can cut down or prevent some of that. But this would be quick and easy to do, and you don't have to do all the extra steps if you don't want to. So it's like your choice. Anyway, I was saying about the zip ties before I forget. You don't have to do these. I just did it so I could, my crumple holder would not hold the petals. They kept coming undone. And so I resorted to pipe cleaners to kind of make the video faster for us tonight. So I'm just going to slip that in here. I'm going to tie my pipe cleaner beside the zip tie. Still same process because I still want it in there tight. Some people just absolutely prefer no fray methods. And like Shannon said, even with the wood burner, they do still fray some. It's mesh. We are never, whoever comes up with mesh that is absolutely no fray is going to be a bazillionaire because all mesh frays. I just by the technique of how it's made with the, you know, everything woven together to make the design, it's going to fray. Okay, so let's see if we can get this to go a little faster. Then I'm making sure I put this petal in between the first two I laid in. And then this one is just over here, slightly overlapping the one underneath. And that's another reason that pulling this so tight and making it tight is important because it keeps those petals where you want them. Okay, one more red one. So we're going to go all the way around the outside, and then we're going to come back and go around the inside. And rainbow wreaths you can use for so many things. I know a lot of people think of rainbow wreaths when they think of Pride, and Pride Month is next month. But like the sign that I'm using says you're a rainbow of possibilities. And every one of my grandchildren love rainbows, even my grandsons. Every time I make a rainbow design, they say that it's their favorite of all my designs. So they can be used for kids' bedroom decor. I actually have a plan in the works to make a Noah's Ark wreath, and I plan to use a rainbow design for that. So there's just so many possibilities. You could even do one with a pot of gold. Yes, they do. Like with a pot of gold and for St. Patrick's Day. You know, the pot of gold at the end of the rainbow or something. That would be cute. I have so many ideas in my head and just not enough time. You pinch off the top of the petal differently and use rainbow loom brands to secure them when you pre-make them. Oh, yeah, that would have probably. I don't know if that'd work with poly mesh though, because it's so thick, and I don't know if those would hold it. You think it would? I know it would hold the poly burlap. It would hold fabric, like some of the thinner meshes. I'm not sure about this poly mesh though. And that's another thing I wanted to mention tonight. I hear people say all the time things like, I don't use poly mesh. That's the cheap mesh. It frays too much. I only use the good stuff. Don't be deterred from using it for those reasons. I mean, if you just hate it, then don't use it. But really consider your design when you're choosing your mesh type. For me, this is a rainbow. I want bright and vibrant colors, um, like the rainbow. And so the only mesh I found, and I did search, um, the only mesh I could find that really had those vibrant colors was poly mesh. You know, and then the other thing about those statements is that not all poly mesh is equal. There is, I mean, just at craftoutlet.com alone, they have a poly mesh that's called value mesh, and then they have their standard poly mesh. And the standard poly mesh is just touching it, feel 100% difference in the thickness and the quality. Um, and I think it's because the weaving in it is woven tighter together than maybe some of the cheaper ones that fray more. So look at those kind of things whenever you're thinking about what type of mesh you want to use. Textures, patterns, colors, like all of those things to me are more important than the name of the type of mesh, I guess is what I'm trying to say. We're creators. We can create with anything, right? I gotta make sure I'm putting my petals where they go as we're working our way around. And when I'm tying it down, I'm twisting like probably 4 times. And then just squeezing that pipe cleaner one last time after I tuck it in. When I measured the finished wreath before I came on, it was about 5 inches deep. So that's with the poly mesh. I almost put that upside down. I don't think it would really make a huge difference because they look a lot alike on both sides, but I'm trying to keep as much of the cut mesh underneath as possible so that it's protected by the top layer, which is another tip for cutting down on fraying when you're using different types of mesh. It's also the reason I'm such a huge Cruffle fan, because it gives you nice coverage all over your frame, keeps everything tucked, all the cut edges tucked in so that it reduces spraying. There's a lot of benefits to it. It gives you a full, nice, full, thick design if that's what you're going for. On this one, I didn't, how thick it is didn't matter to me, but I also didn't want it to end up being completely flat. I wanted it to have some fluff to it. So I find most of my customers prefer that. I do not do very many pancake wreaths because my specific customers are not a fan. I even had one lady leave me a review on a pancake wreath, even though it was in the description. what it was, that there was nothing there to fluff up. So I don't do a lot of those, but they do serve a great purpose of the storm door. Like if I make one for my mom, she has a storm door. It needs to be pancake style, or at least a technique that will fit between. I do have another way of using cruffles that I can use to make hers, that works between storm doors. Oh, thank you, Holly. Yeah, I guess kids aren't the only ones that love rainbows because I do too. They're just so bright and happy. They just like, I don't know, they just make me feel happy. We're getting pretty close to this outside edge being done. So we put 5 pipe cleaners in each section, so we're actually using 30 pieces of mesh. And again, it's 30 pieces, 10-inch mesh cut to 18 inches. You could do it shorter or longer, depending on your preference. If you do it shorter, remember you might have to use more pieces to get your frame covered. I'm really struggling to tie around these zip ties. You guys are wondering what I'm fumbling with. So now we need yellow. I'm going to reach under here and pull out these yellow pipe cleaners. One thing that I didn't show you guys on the one that is finished is you kind of get an ombre effect with this too after you put on the second layer, because where the colors meet, they kind of intermingle with each other. So it's almost kind of, it reminded me of an ombre effect, like how they kind of blend into each other. Okay, so when I put in my last collar, I want everything to lay the same. And here we have red overlapping, purple overlapping, blue overlapping. So we want this orange to be overlapping on this side, and then the yellow will be overlapping on this side. So we're just going to pull this one up and tuck that one behind. Oh, and that's just stuck together. Not good. Okay. So now I need to do this middle pipe cleaner. I'll add it upside down again. Remember to keep situating your petals as you go around. And we got one more on the outside. And we have some fraying. So I'm going to lift this up, slide this in there. I'm trying to tie beside the zip tie, not on it, so that it's more sturdy. That's why if I was, if I wasn't doing a tutorial for you guys, I wouldn't do zip tie at first. I would just do it like we did these orange ones. Okay, we need to fix our petal because I've pushed it clear out of sorts. Okay, so that's with our outer layer. I didn't measure how wide this is. This is a pretty wide wreath. If you wanted shorter petals, then you could cut your mesh pieces a little bit smaller. So it's 26 inches from end of mesh to mesh. That's a pretty big wreath. Okay, so I'm going to come back here and start with the orange again. I'm just going to go ahead and open my pipe cleaner, even though I almost opened it the wrong way. And then we need to make a couple more petals, so we'll do that together again. If you're new to making wreaths, you've made 3 doing the poof method. Oh, that's awesome. I'm so glad you're watching me, Kelly. I love seeing people that are new to it. I was new to it myself in 2017, and I've learned everything that I know doing exactly what you're doing now. And that is watching others. And I ended up you end up finding what works for you, what you like, what matches your personality. And you probably take a little bit from each person that you watch and eventually come up with your own style and techniques. You like to do poofs, then on top of that, the woodland ruffles. Yeah, that makes a very full wreath. You're not a fan of the pancake style either. Yeah. Um, I try to do what's best for my customers. And so if I do a technique and I don't get good feedback, or I do a technique and it sits in my shop forever, you're welcome. I avoid it essentially. But having said that, what sells for me might not sell for somebody else, and what sells for somebody else might not sell for me. We all have different customers who have different, things that they like or don't like, different needs. Okay, now when I'm putting these in, I'm kind of letting them just go out more than these. I bead these back more. I'm letting these kind of go out because I want to make sure as I work around, I'm covering all this frame. Okay. And I'm not going to cut these off because, like I said, I'm thinking about coming in here and adding some mesh tubing. So I'm just going to push that down and leave that lay. Okay. I laid some ribbons in when I was working with it earlier, and I didn't really like the ribbons with the design, so I scrapped that all together. Okay, so one more time, just taking the 18-inch piece of mesh, folding it over, lining up these edges the best you can. Perfect is not required, but you do want to get it as close as you can. And then I'm just flattening it out because I want a point up here. I'm taking these 2 points, folding up to these 2 points, pressing it down so that my cut mesh is on the inside, running right here, so about an inch in from the edge. And then I want to work with this because I want to make it like a boat shape. And you see how springy poly mesh is? Okay, so then I'm just going to scrunch up the middle, pull this tip back towards me, flip it over, and then I'm ready to lay it in. And then again, I'm not going to pull it out as far as I did the ones on the outside ring. Tying it in there really tight. And here you can kind of start to see, like when I was talking about the ombre effect, you can kind of see how the colors start to intermingle where they meet. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so now we're going to do red. I almost wish I would have cut a couple of extra pieces of mesh to show you guys the result when you cut it to different lengths. Because you can really, that 23-inch piece I cut was a huge, huge petal. I don't think we need it that big because, like I said, at 18 inches, we have a 26-inch wreath. So that's pretty big. Or at least I think it is. Most of my wreaths I do about 24 inches. And again, the reason I do that is because that is what my customers tend to prefer. You started making them in 2022 and you just love it. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Holly. So you've been doing it a little while, but going on 2 years. I actually started in 2017. And basically, I don't know, I guess I'll tell this. Some may already know it. I went to law school. So I went to law school late in life. I actually went to law school with my daughter, who is now an attorney practicing in Florida. When I finished law school, I did great. I made great grades, was top of my class. I was actually like third from the top of my class, and decided I didn't want to practice law. It was so stressful. And at my age, I already have so much anxiety. I did not want to do it. And so I had to figure out what I was going to do. Like, I had worked as a paralegal most of my life, but to be honest with you, that was more stressful probably than being an attorney, because of the expectations and such. So I didn't really want to go back to that either. And so I didn't know what I was going to do. And I don't know. I don't even know how it started. I'm sure it had something to do with Facebook ads or something like that. And so Reese started popping up on my page, and I thought, oh, that would be fun. I think I'll make some. And originally I thought of it as a hobby, or making gifts for family members or something like that. But then the more that I started watching all the wreath makers that were out there at the time, the more that I thought that really could be a business. And then it was actually, there's a lot of ladies that my design style and the things that I do come from. But the business side of it, where I decided I wanted a business, that actually came from watching Damon Oates with Decor, because he used to. I haven't watched any of his videos, and let's probably be shamed for saying that. But when I watched his videos, he used to do at the end, he would do like this business sense thing, like, hey, you all think about this. And then he would pull out this like whiteboard and do some numbers. I don't know if you guys have ever seen him do that. And everything he said just clicked with me. It just made so much sense that I was like, okay, I'm going to do this. And so that's how I got to the business part of it. My design style and stuff, when I created that new technique, I went to YouTube and I was watching YouTube videos because I wanted to make sure there was nothing already out there like what I thought I had created, because it's possible to create something that somebody else has previously created. That's very possible. And I was watching Nadia, DIY with Nadia, Kat with Kat's Creations, Michelle Smith Creations. Those ladies are where when I was watching Nadia, I thought, oh my gosh, it's almost like I mimicked everything she does. Everything from using the glue to attach the pipe cleaner to the back of a sign, to using a clip on my mesh, like all that stuff they were doing. And I was like, oh my gosh, you don't realize how much of it you're picking up when you're watching them. And it was actually kind of cool to go watch them again after not having watched in a while, because I was able to recognize like how much influence they have had on me. And yeah, he's very creative, he's very direct, but boy, I tell you what, as far as business sense goes, whew, he is amazing. Okay. And I'm actually signed up with his business coaching. The problem is that I'm so overwhelmed with how much I always have to do is I don't spend enough time working on it. So I need to probably figure out a schedule where I can work that in. And I do recommend, if you are new to this and you are thinking about doing a business type thing, I do recommend watching his free videos, because, like I said, at the end of them, a lot of times he will do um, like a little business talk. And of course, that probably is to promote his business coaching. But to me, that's fine, because I found it so helpful that, and all of us are promoting something at some point. We're all trying to promote. We're influencers essentially. Um, and if you decide to do the business aspect of it after some research and stuff on your own, coaching is the way to go. And he is not the only coach out there. There's other coaches. Actually, Shannon was just informing me recently that Julie, I think it's Julie's Wreath Boutique, I think is her name, is doing coaching now. She was a huge influence on my design style. I watched her a ton when I started. Yes, yes. And what's Holly's business name? What's her page name, Shannon? She is Holly's coach. And Holly, she has like 60 some thousand followers on Facebook. She's doing magnificent. So I do recommend looking into coaches and coaching and maybe finding one that matches your personality type and that you could work with, because it has made a huge difference to me having the coaching and the information. There's just so much stuff that you don't think of. I've learned a whole lot about marketing, something I knew nothing about. I still have a lot to learn though, so I'm not claiming like I should be an expert by any means. But I have learned a lot, and it has made a huge difference in my Etsy shop and my Etsy sales. Holly Lynn Williams, yeah, that's it. Okay, so I'm going to tuck the yellow behind again because we want to keep our layering all the same. Okay. So this is it. Let me kind of show you from the side. And this is what I'm talking about with poly mesh, how it kind of poofs up. So it ends up being, I'm not sure you guys can even tell on the screen how thick, but it's pretty thick. And I'm going to go ahead and we're going to add, if I can find all my little pipe cleaners. I kind of got some of them covered up. We're going to add some mesh tubing. Since I'm not using ribbons, I don't know, I just felt like I needed to add something else. So mesh tubing it is. That's what we're going to work in here and see how we like it. The mesh tubing that I actually have some little packs of it from the Dollar Tree, but I don't have much of that left. And I have actually started ordering because I can get it year round from Craft Outlet. I cannot remember. It varies by style and type. The price does. Price varies by style and type that you get, but you get 30 yards. So in one pack, I get 150 feet of this mesh tubing. And I can't remember how much the one from the Dollar Tree is. I think it's something like 15 feet for $1.25 or something. And I haven't done a price comparison, so I'm not sure which one's the best. You're going to go back and watch some of my previous videos because you have an awful time with placing the ribbons. Oh, you are so sweet. Thank you. Tiffany, also, I really do try because I feel like other wreath makers got me to where I am now. So I really do try to help as many people as I can. So if you ever have questions and you want to message me, you can, feel free to do that. I'll be happy to try to help you. And if I don't know, I'll be honest. I'll tell you I don't know. Okay, so I am essentially just going to gather this in my hand, but those loops are too big. So I'm going to just hold my end here, and I'm just gathering little loops in my hand. I'm going to try to keep them about the same size. They won't all end up being the same size at the end. I know because I've done this before and they never are. Okay, so I think I'm going to do 4. And I've just got it pinched between my fingers here. And I have probably a ½ inch or a little more down here that I'm going to attach inside of the pipe cleaner. I want to keep my rainbow look, so I'm going to put green on green. And that's the way we're going to do it all the way around. So I'm just going to come in here, push this down inside of my pipe cleaner. This end here that's not pretty will get hid behind the sign. So I'm just going to pull it really tight like I do everything. Twist it 3 or 4 times. Lose my scissors. How many of you guys lose your scissors? Okay, we're going to snip it off just like we did the other ones. pinch it down in and squeeze it really good so it holds everything tight. And then this is, I'm just going to snip off. Okay. So we're going to do, we have 2 pipe cleaners in each color here on the inside. So we're going to do 2 of each. I do not know how long I cut these. Let me measure real quick so I can tell you guys. So this will be approximate because this stuff is stretchy and flexible. Whoops, see? Okay, so 2 feet, it's about 4 feet long, each one of these. And you could make smaller loops and cut less. You're the designer, so it's up to you. Can be used to make flower centers too. Yes, I've seen, it might be you that I've seen do that. I have seen others do that. I'm not going to do that. I'm going to just use it in these little things and make these little frilly things to go around the sign. It'll kind of imitate a center, I guess, even though it's not a center. Okay. If you guys, I just seen Kelly, thanks Shannon. If you guys are not familiar with Shannon or you're not following her page, I recommend her also. She does a lot of stuff on her page. She doesn't do lives very often, trying to get her to do it. But she does a lot of videos and shows her process through photographs and videos and stuff. There's a wealth of information there that you guys can learn from. I even learned from Shannon, so. Okay, and I'm going to fan those out. I'll probably do that at the end more so, but so that's what those look like. What do you guys think? Should I have done that or no? Okay, so we're going to do yellow next, which really this is kind of like a gold. The thing I'm using is metallic. You can buy a non-metallic. Craftoutlet.com has it. I don't know why. I like glittery and flashy, I guess. So I went with the metallic. And I have to take my glasses off to see up close, you guys. I'm borderline blind. I need to really get to the eye doctor. And I keep saying that. I've been saying that for over a year now. I've got some fraying going on. This yellow seems to be fraying more. I almost wonder if I grabbed a value mesh for the yellow. Because I noticed none of these others are fraying very much, but this yellow is. I think I might have accidentally grabbed value mesh there. When you do this, just make sure all of these bottom tips, you have those pinched in when you tie them in, so that way it doesn't pop back out on you. Push that down. Our sign is going to sit in the middle there, and we'll hold all this, help hold all this in nicely too. And I meant to mention that the layering of these and how they're layered over top of each other will also help with reducing fraying. So if fraying is something that bothers you, just knowing that layering like that can help reduce it. And basically, your top pieces are protecting your bottom pieces. That's the reason I flipped those petals over, because it put most of the cut part underneath. Not all of it, because we still have cut edges, some on top and on the outside ring here. But I try with my with my techniques or methods, even if I'm using something somebody else created, I try to hide as much of that cut edge as I can. Not hide it, but protect it, I guess is a better way to say it. Okay, so we'll put the orange. This video is probably going to end up being a little bit longer than my others, because I wanted to take some extra time and make sure I explained what I was doing really well, because this is new. You know, I've never done a video like this for you guys, so I wanted to give you guys a chance to ask questions and make sure I explain it well. Trying to make sure that I don't cut anything under here that I'm not supposed to. Put my glasses on, check the comments. Oh, thank you. I think so too. I think I'm going to kind of like it. We'll have to see after we get the sign on. You know how I am. I second guess myself all the time after I get something complete. Like, do I have too much black? Should I not have used those? Should I put ribbons instead? I think that's common. We all do it, and I don't think that we will ever stop. Oh, thank you, Tiffany. I am excited to share that one too. I just really hope that a lot of people will take it and experiment with it. And I can't wait to see what everybody does. Yes, we are that is very true about us. We are definitely our own worst critics. And I don't think we're ever going to change. I don't think that's going to stop. I think it's just the nature of what we do. It's like a required personality trait to be a wreath maker. Now this down in here, you know, these little fuzzy ends and stuff, this does not look very attractive, but that's okay, because none of this is going to be seen once we put the sign in, okay? Oh, there goes my stone crown. I can tell you this, it's getting hard for me to see down in there. It's getting thick. Okay, now we've got purple and blue to go, and then we'll put our sign in there and see what we think. Let's check on this glue real quick. Where did I put the sign? I can't believe I stapled this to my table. Yeah, that's holding very well. I can pull very hard and it's not moving. So we're good. We're good on the sign. Let's go ahead and finish these up. That goes to show that I don't cut these perfectly either. That one was a little bit shorter than the others. So it still works. There's just not any extra to cut off. And of course, I'm not measuring the loops either. So those are going to vary too. Oops, one of them was hiding. This piece of mesh is a little bit messed up, so I'm gonna just mess with it here a minute and see if I can fix that a little bit. Sometimes if you just spring it back and forth, if it's flat or twisted, it'll straighten out. I helped it a little bit. Oh, I think I made that loop too small though. Oh, I just let go of that. Let's see if I end up having to redo it. Nope, I got it. All right, we got the blue. That piece had a mind of its own. It was going to go where it wanted to go. And then I cut that one really long. Most of the designs you see me do will be perfection not required designs. Maybe that's what I should call all my stuff. Perfection not required. Okay. Last one. And then we'll see what our sign looks like. And I can decide whether I like all this frilly bright stuff in the middle. I think I'm going to. It's always easy enough to pop out if you don't like it. No mistakes that be fixed. For design that can't be changed. Okay, this piece is really not wanting to lay the way I want it to lay. Now the sign will probably take care of that. So let's see. Our sign is huge. It's 12 inches, but to me, it just looks massive. And I think I am going to like this because our sign is going to keep these pushed back. What do you guys think? I do want to turn it though, because I used a green and a red pipe cleaner for a reason. And that was so I could put it down through where the red and green is and it wouldn't be as noticeable. Of course, I think we've added so much stuff on here you wouldn't notice it anyway at this point. But I am just going to reach down through here. I'm going to go around 2 of the rings. Now we have got petals packed on all of these rings. So I'm going to go on the inside 2 rings. Normally with a 12-inch sign, you will hear me say I go on the outside 2, but that is not going to be possible with all these petals. In fact, I'm wondering if I'm even going to get this fed through the second ring. That's how much we have packed in here. There, I got it. Okay. So I'm just going to wrap my pipe cleaner around the 2 inside. Let me flip it over and show you. We can do this. So I'm on 1 and 2 rows, and I'm just going to twist this slightly because I want to make sure that my sign is centered. So now I'm going to come to the other side. And yeah, that I sunk that down. I pulled that way too tight. So I'm going to loosen that. Oops. Not so much that I have to feed the pipe cleaner through there again, though. All right. So loosen that back up. Push these all back out because I didn't want to hide them. That is more like how I wanted it to sit. Okay, so I'm going to try to make sure I have all my loops pulled out. I think I do. Now I want to try to make sure it's in the center. All right, now I got to try to feed this down through here. This is going to be the hardest part if you guys decide to do this design, is getting this around the ring. I think I might end up, oh wait, there's a place I can go through. Maybe. There it goes. Okay, so I am able to get it through there, but just barely. Okay. Now before I flip it over again to show you guys, I'm going to go ahead and double check. Make sure I'm not hiding anything. Make sure it's in the middle. That looks pretty close. Oop, I just lost one of my things. There we go. And who knows, you guys, I might adjust this again after I put it on the door. That's something that frequently happens. I think I have my sign centered and I don't. So then after I hang it up, I have to take it down and adjust it again. So once I get it where I want it, I just come to the back, twist the pipe cleaner around itself a bunch of times. I'm also twisting in towards this wire ring to tighten it. And then you can snip off the extra, or you can just take it and wrap it all around the ring here. Make sure whatever you do that you put the sharp edge up into the inside. You don't want to scratch your friend's door or your family's door or your customer's door or your own door, whoever you're making the wreath for. Okay. So now that's, you can always check that and make sure it's smooth. Now I'm just going to flip it around here and do this side. And we're almost done, guys. I'm sorry this one went kind of long, but thank you guys so much for hanging with me. I do really appreciate it. Okay, and again, just wrapping it around this inside ring to make it look neat and tidy. Make sure the pointy edge is on the inside. I know this is the back of the wreath, but that still bothers me. Okay, so let's turn, oh, and we got a red loop hid. Let's turn this back over, pull our red loop through, and you guys tell me what you think. Oh, thank you, Katrina. So what do you guys think of that? You guys like the mesh tubing? Should I have left that off and just left it the way that it was? Thank you, Holly. I really appreciate that. I did, Shannon. That is amazing. I'm very grateful for all of everybody who watches me. Even if you can only watch me for a few minutes, every little bit helps. All right, you guys, thank you so much. You guys have a good evening, and then I will see you guys tomorrow night. I'm going to spend the rest of the evening and tomorrow practicing and deciding exactly how I'm going to do the live with the new technique. Hi, Connie. Thank you for hopping on. This is our finished project for tonight. We did kind of like a rainbow flower design. I think this is really cute, and I know my grandkids are going to love it. All right, you guys have a good night, and I'll talk to you tomorrow.